That was my background. I went to Wall Street. I didn't know anything about stocks. After going to Wall Street, in 1 year, I was the most quoted person in Wall Street for 12 years. Every day, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. I was quoted every day. It was sickening. And I knew nothing about Wall Street. So I'm here to advise you and to teach you how to get ahead and how to do well in anything. I do well in anything I do, and I'm an idiot. Okay, I have no background. Okay, so I'm a guy from the streets. Now it reminds me of these two guys, one guy, I guess. He went in, he said, I've had it. I'm gonna go to a monastery and become a monk. I can't take things anymore. So he shows up at a monastery, they make him a monk. And they say, you have to know the rules. Only one thing can be said in 7 years. That's it. Nobody can talk except one person in 7 years. So he shows up. A few years later, as he's in the middle of a cycle, he gets up and he says, soup is cold. That was it. They go another 7 years and somebody else gets up. This other guy gets up. He says, bread is stale. That's it. Everybody sits down. And this guy who joined finally gets up and says, all you guys just complain. I'm getting out of here. That's the kind of culture I come from, okay? Rodney Dangerfield, people like that, that's what we looked up to.
No respect.
Yeah. And me, I have a good time every day of my life. And that's why I have never been sick for even 20 minutes or 10 minutes. Never been sick a day of my life. I don't know what sickness is. So I have people work for me, they get sick. I say, what are you talking about? You're sick. Get back to work. What are you talking about? I don't know what sickness is. I'm happy every minute of every day of my life. I've never had a bad day. Every day is great. So now this meeting, I got to turn it into a great meeting because it's been lagging a little bit.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, we got to make it a great meeting. Everyone's got to be happy in this meeting. Okay, you got to be inspired. Okay, now, you can easily be inspired like me. I'm some schmuck from Brooklyn. I don't know anything. Zero. I have no culture. So it ends up, I end up on the board of Juilliard. I end up on the board of Eugene O'Neill Theater Group, and I don't know anything. I really don't. When I get on these boards, I've been on 200 boards, and nobody knows it. I mean, I'm on every board, and I'm having a good time. So what I do when I get on a board is I don't do anything for 3 months. I just sit back and watch everybody waste everybody else's time. So that's what I do. I sit there for 3 months and I get bored. And nobody's cracking jokes and nobody's having a good time. And that's what happens. So I change things around. And after I change things around and they become a happy board, that's when I leave. Right? They don't need me anymore. I've been on 200 boards. Now, what's my main advantage in being on a board? You know, the 10K, it's bigger than a telephone book these days. 10K is everything, comes out annually. Well, that's what they have me do. So I read the 10Ks. The guys at 3M and a lot of big companies would call me from the stage and say, I don't know the answer to that question, but Harry Edelson's in the office and he would know the answer. Yeah, guys like Frank Carey at IBM would call me out. because they know I read everything. It's a compulsion. Now, why do I read everything? I'll tell you why. Somebody sent me to a school when I was a kid. And the school was Evelyn Wood Reading Dynamics. Okay, so I go to this school and I'm reading all this stuff and they give you a test afterwards. So they give you a test and I aced the test. I'm reading 4,000 words a minute. Everyone's astounded. This guy reads 4,000 words a minute. We got to give him 10Ks to read. He's the only guy who will read a 10K. So this is how I got into reading 10Ks. Because, and the thing is, I didn't know I can read fast. So I read a book in one day. Everybody else is, well, like my wife's reading the New York Times from 3 weeks ago. So I mean, I'm reading things way ahead. So I learned how to read fast. And why? Because I learned by going to Evelyn Wood that I can read fast. I never knew I could read fast. It's like going to be a quarterback and you never threw a touchdown pass in your life, and suddenly they give you a football and you're throwing touchdowns. You got to learn that you can do it. So I learned that I can do certain things besides playing stickball and punchball, because that's how I grew up, playing ball in the streets. You know, we paint a thing on the street, that was second base, and we paint something here near the curb, that was first base. And we played with balls that were ridiculous. Everything was torn off the ball. It was just a bunch of cords. And that's what we played with. So when we had a ball, we played with it for 2 weeks. Now they play with it for 2 throws by the pitcher, and that's it. Throw it out. It's an injured ball. We don't want to use it anymore. So things have changed. And I'm teaching you here that you can do what I do. I learned how to do things because people told me I can do it. That's how I learned to do things. Otherwise, I had no confidence. I had no father. My mother was illiterate. My 3 older brothers, 7 years, 12 and 13 years, went to war. And there was nobody around. Nobody taught me how to brush my teeth. So that's the way I was raised. In the streets, fun, taking care of myself. Okay, so anyway, somehow I turned out to be okay. Yeah, and you know what? I get quoted every day in the paper. They're quoting me, and I'm laughing. Why are they quoting me? You know, I just don't know anything about stocks. I tell them that. I joined Wall Street. I didn't know what a stock was, but I read about it because people told me I should know that. We're going to give you a job. You got to learn about stocks and bonds. So I was encouraged to learn these things. And I want to tell you and your children that what they need is encouragement.
Yeah.
They have to be advised that they should do these things and read everything. So if you read everything, like I used to read a book a day. There was no problem. Now, you go into a subway in New York and somebody is going like this with his New York Times and, you know, going there. It takes them like 10 minutes to turn the page. When you're a speed reader, you got your finger right on the page. You go zoom, zoom, zoom. You'll read real fast. That's part of speed reading. So I read real fast because I don't waste any time. I've got my finger on the next page and I read it real fast. So anyway, I took advantage of all that's out there, and part of it was the things that I learned to do. I did speed math. I'm saying, why am I looking at this problem when there's a trick that I've learned that I can answer it immediately? 11 times 34, 374. Okay, it's a trick. You just take the 2 digits, add it, and put it in the middle. So that's how you multiply by 11. 45 times 45. How do you do that? You take one higher than the 4, which is 5. 5 times 4 is 20, 25. So if you multiply a number ending in 5, you just take one digit higher than the first digit and then put a 25 at the end. So if it's 55 times 55, 6 times 5 is 30, 25. 85 times 85, 72, 25. Very simple. So I'm looking at simple math, and they're teaching me calculus. And I don't know what's going on with calculus. And they're teaching me differential equations and all this stuff. I've never used it in my life, but I passed all the tests and I learned this stuff, but it's not useful. So I'm learning things that are useful. And I'm teaching my kids when they're 10 years old to do useful things. So I learned how to memorize 100 things in any order. And everybody would give me a test when I showed up in the morning. My secretary would say, here's 100 things. What's 81? What's 52? What's 36? My secretary would tell me this. You know, everyone's testing me. It's very simple. So I said to myself, you know, I'm remembering 100 things in any order. You could say a needle, 82, pancake, 55. You know, whatever you give me, I remember. Then I realized, you know, if I get a key list of 100 things, it makes me remember 100 things in 15 minutes in any order. I can remember 10,000 things. So I have a key list of 100 things, and I make another key list of 100 things, and now I can do 5,461. I could do 10,000 things instead of 100 things. So I walk in, I give my secretary a challenge. I say, I want you to give me 10,000 things in any order, but you can't do that, take you too long. So just give me a test and ask me about those 10,000 things. So I go in the morning, she says, chowder, 5,341. And then she says, sandbox, 4,262. So she gives me 100 things numbered from 1 to 10,000, which I easily do because it's a trick. It's in my book, Positivity. Teaches you how to do these tricks. And how it teaches you in a half a page how to do the trick. So, yes, Judy.
Didn't you just write an amazing book about what's wrong with meetings? Get
Yes,
me out of
yes.
this blankety blank.
Yes, I just wrote a book. Get me out of this. Should I use it in
Yes,
polite company?
yes.
Get me out of this fucking meeting.
It is remarkable.
This is the name of my book. So that's the book. Get me out of this meeting. Now, you proved it, Matty, you know, Marty, in this meeting. I was supposed to talk at 4:30. I end up talking at 5. This is what my book is about. So who did I get to write a forward for my book? I get to meet a lot of very famous people. This guy is the #2 guy in the entire military, okay? And he says, I'll gladly write your book because you're right. And in the military, everything's screwed up too. Nobody's on time. Every meeting, it goes on forever. And me, when I hold a meeting, boom, it's done. It's like a radio broadcast, like the dentist, like a lot of industries that run on a time basis. And they don't let up. You know, will WINS come up with a different time and be 10 minutes late with somebody? No. They're always on time. I'm always on time. So when I hold a meeting, it starts on time and it ends on time. And I have a book which is illustrated, which explains 15 chapters of what's screwed up. Like you got a keynote speaker like me, and I'm speaking overtime. I've got 10 minutes to talk, and you know, I'm talking for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I'll tell you a secret. When you're conducting a meeting and you've got really important people, like I hold meetings with generals, admirals, CEOs of companies, CFOs, and when I cut them off, I say, you're speaking too long. We've got other speakers. Can you end your talk? They love it. They want to be told.
Yeah.
They're like the military. You tell them what to do and they do it. It's just that you don't have the guts to do the right thing and cut it off. You don't have the guts. Nobody does, except me. I'm the only guy who has the guts. I cut people off, and when I'm listening at the last half hour, when I'm supposed to be giving my speech, yes, it's tearing me up inside because I should be talking at that time. So, yes, and I've told Marty that. So, and I'm always having a good time. So every meeting I have a great time. When I go to a class with someone, or I go to a conference, and I'm just making fun of the people there, and I'm clicking the guy next to me and saying, look at this, look at that. He's gonna talk for a long time. And so I've got caricatures with people, like they've got a long cane and they're hooking a guy off the stage. Okay, like that's one of the caricatures. So it's a very funny book. The people over at one of the big publishers read the book and said, it's hilarious, but we can't publish it. Why they can't publish it, I don't know. But, it's one of those publishing things.
Well,
So-
didn't you say, excuse me, that most meetings are a huge waste of time and money?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Meetings are a waste of time and money. So I'm writing to benefit society. I'm making meetings more streamlined. People will be more conscious about the meetings. The meetings will be shorter, more precise. Everything I write is to help society. So my book about positivity, everything in that, it teaches you how to be happier, healthier, smarter, and more prosperous. 4 things that everybody wants. And when you read the book, you will find it will address all those things. And in the second book, Get Me Out of This Fucking Meeting, it's going to help meetings be quicker and more precise. And people will be more conscious of being on time. So,
Don't you have an issue with slides?
yeah, well, one of the things is they put a lot of slides up,
Nobody can read them.
and they're too small for anyone to read if they're beyond the 3rd row. So, so I point out all the negatives about things. And the main thing is to be happier. Have everything work out better, quicker. It's like if you're a ball player, you want to, get a hit. You don't want to make out all the time. You want to do the right thing at least some of the time. So to me, I'm just enjoying life. It's fun finding out all these problems and trying to help correct them. So that's basically what my talk is going to be all about. Question?
So I think someone else mentioned it, Elon Musk, who you may know, Walter Isaacson, just writing a book on him, but he's pretty famous. And if you're not getting anything out of a meeting, to pretty much get up and walk out.
Yeah.
And then that's just a point. The second thing, I'm a big fan of CBS Sunday Morning News with Jane Pauley, and this weekend they had an interview with Oprah, and forgive me, the gentleman that she's working with, they wrote a book. It's come out, I believe, this week on basics of happiness. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend that as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, most people say, I hate meetings. So you got meetings, which is like $400 billion business, something like that. It's a huge business. And it's run amok. Nobody's taking charge of meetings. So I take it seriously. So my meetings that I have on time, start on time, end on time, and we had some fun. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a meeting of the China Investment Group. We meet about 6 times a year. So we have a meeting, and our speaker, his name is William Noe, N-O-E. So I meet him at a restaurant, first time. We go inside, and he walks up to the maitre d' with me, and the maitre d' says, "May I have your name, please?" He says, "No." That's his name. That's pretty funny. So he shocked me. He said, "No." I said, "Well, this guy's a crackpot," I said, you know. I said, "He must be on the, you know, on the loose from the FBI." He says, "No, you can't have my name." But well, things like that are funny. And there's so many things that are funny, and that's what I look for in everything I do. So, and I'm looking to make money in stock market, and you know, I don't come from that, and I know how to make money. So I go in, and somebody says, "How do you do so well in the stock market?" In fact, I brought an article here somewhere. This is amazing. This was in the Wall Street Journal last week. It says, private equity funds have returned 12% a year since 1989, compared with 8% for the S&P 500. Well, I don't know if that's accurate, but it's the Wall Street Journal. Okay, that's what they say. My returns were 28.8%, and I don't know anything. And they're doing 8%, 9% a year. I mean, this is a good joke. It's like the best joke that anyone could, yeah, you know, and some jerk like me is doing 28.8%.
Here, you got 5 minutes.
Yeah, so,
We gotta go to dinner.
anyway, so, yeah, so life is fun. And, you know, I've got 1,000 jokes that I bring out at the right time. So to me, that's what's fun. You know, I'm a Jewish comedian from Brooklyn. That's what I do. I just, yeah.
Where do we find your book?
I just ordered it on
Barnes and
Amazon.
Noble, I didn't bring
It's on
copies with me.
Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, yeah, Amazon. And I
At stores?
It's on Amazon.
no, this is a,
Are you doing book
Positivity's on
signing?
Apple.
yeah, I haven't done a book signing. I haven't done anything. So, but the book is available, and I'm not pushing it, but it's available. And everyone ought to have a copy. Everyone ought to have a copy. And they ought to give it to the head people at various companies and say, yeah.
What about writing a book on how to get 28.2% returns without knowing anything?
I'll tell you the truth, my returns would be much higher. Now, what I did crazy things. I said, I'm giving back 20% of the managing partners, me, and some couple other guys that I had. I'm giving back 20%. I'm making too much money. I don't want to make so much money. Because my corporations, they said, go out and just help our corporations. Because I came from industry, and they all said I knew what I was talking about. So they all wanted me just to help them. They said, we don't care if you lose money, just don't lose too much. So that was it. And you know, the hockey stick curve in venture capital, you're supposed to be like flat for the first year or two. Me, I didn't have a flat first year. I made money every year for 20 years in the first year in every fund. I didn't have to wait a year or two to make money. So to me, it was all common sense. So it goes beyond luck, because I did this for 4 funds over 20 years. I made a lot of money. My partners love me, and I helped them, which was our main thing. Help us, help AT&T, help 3M, help Ford Motor Company. So I had 10 of the biggest companies in the world, and I called them one time each and said, you want to come into my fund? They all said yes, 10 for 10. So I was doing something right. Maybe I was entertaining them with good jokes. Something or other was working. So, anyway, so life sort of comes easy for me. And if you can read real fast and you can do math in your head, let me give you like a math situation. I'll end it with this math thing. Now, I told you simple things, multiply by 11, multiply by an even number from like 48 times 52 is 4 less than 2,500. So you tell me how this works. I don't know. But let's take a number like 88 times 95. 88 times 95. Can you picture it? Big numbers. Big numbers. 88 times 95. Now the difference to 100, called the complement, is 12 and 5. 88 is 12 to 100. 95 is 5 to 100. So you got 88 and 95. The last two digits are 12 times 5, 60. The two, put them together, 12 times 5 is 60. The first two digits are either number. 88 less the complement of the other number, which is 5. So it's 83. So the answer is 8360. Or you take 95 less the complement of 12, it still comes out 83. I don't know how this gets done, but I love looking at something like that and saying, wow, this is like amazing. What's going on here? So yeah, do that. If you have a calculator, do 88 times 95, and then you do work with the complements. So there's so many fascinating things with numbers. Math is a lot of fun. Anyway, that's the story. Nice to talk to you.